Well, good evening to everybody out there in internet land. Hi, hello, and how are you doing? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and welcome back to another edition of Chattin on the Porch, a fun, lively little live stream that we do where we get together, we talk about the news, we give our views, and on occasion we bring on a guest, and we got a really great guest lined up for this evening. Looking forward to talking to him. Looking forward to talking to all you guys. Can't wait to see who all is here. And we'll start off as we are wont to. We'll go over to YouTube. And we have a new visitor this evening. Vor Axelon the Wise. I wonder if you folks will be doing the drinking game here. You know, I've heard about this drinking game where my guest is concerned. So I have to get some details on that now. Now he can participate in the drinking game. Me, I gotta steer this train. So we'll see how that goes. But Vor Axelon, welcome this evening. Lana, you lovely lady. Mwah, good to see you, darling. Let's see who else is in the house. WWG1's been dropping the memes over there on the Rumble side like a fiend, so he's absolutely fantastic at what he's doing. Good to have y'all here. Everybody's settling into the room. We'll be saying hello to everybody, or try to as they stop by. So I'll tell you what, as we are wont to do, we will start off with the Merry Memes section of the show, and then I will do an introduction of our guest, and I am looking forward to talking to this cat because we have got a ton of things to go over by way of news, but particularly as it relates to one aspect of life in America. So with that, we'll start with the memes, and as you are no doubt noticing, Democrats are much in the news these days, not just for their antics, but for their commentary. And Ilhan Omar, the representative from Minnesota, is no different. And apparently she has, the struggle for her is real right now. Just as an example, one of her more recent tweets, I will pop this up here. Elon says, "The battle is raging inside me. Watch out, world." And Ashley Sinclair dropped that wonderful little missive by way of response. So I'm just going to leave that one right there. So you guys make of that one whatever you will. I mean, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. There you go. Elon calls it a battle. Well, maybe people will call it something else. I don't know. Anywho, what else do we have in the way of the merry memes? Yes. Everyone's favorite holiday is coming up this Friday. Valentine's Day. So, but some people have a darker view of this holiday than others might. So, I'm just going to pop this one up right here and, let it speak for itself. There you go, my friends. There you go. Like I say, some people have a very, very, very dark view of Valentine's Day. Just saying. WWG1 says, "Damn, Valentine's Day, I have to buy a gift." Well, you kind of got to do that sort of thing, dude. If you got, if there is somebody in the life. And with that, we're going to turn our attention to our guest, and very thankful that he is here. I have to thank my friend Mike Harlow, and I have no doubt that harlot at some point is going to make an appearance somewhere during this live stream. He introduced me indirectly to my guest, and now this guest is on my channel. We're going to have a conversation this evening. As you all are aware, there's a whole lot going on ever since January 20th, and Donald Trump is shaking up everything, including the United States military. Well, my guest has a channel on YouTube and various other places. He himself is a veteran of the United States Army. And I am definitely looking forward to him. The channel that he has over on YouTube is known as Vets Talking. And the channel's been around for a little while. I'm looking forward to finding out a lot about him, his work, everything he's doing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Electronic Front Porch, Adam from Vets Talking.
Hail, what's going on?
Hail to you, sir. Good to see you, sir. Welcome to the Electronic Front Porch, my friend.
I want to give a shout out to Vor there. Yeah, we do have the drinking game rules. I do like relaxing with my IPA from time to time. You went on my show, and I have an amazing one here with the epic Donald Trump picture on there. We are not going to be taking shots. We do shots of $20 super chats. We're not doing that tonight, but I'm happy as hell to be here, man.
Well, glad to have you, brother. I've seen you and Harlow hanging around together, which, bless your heart, you do realize you're taking a risk to your reputation running around with that bum, right?
You do realize my first night showing up here in Orlando, I got blackout drunk and found myself in my room the next morning, not knowing how I got there and wondering, where's Mikey?
Those are good. That was a great question to ask yourself after you came to yourself, because look, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying it's Harlow and anything could happen. I mean,
he is a fun individual, but thankfully nothing in that kind of interaction whatsoever.
No, and Mike, if you're listening to this, we're just giving you grief. We love you. But, we're just going to give you absolute amounts of grief because you're not here to defend yourself, which is all the more reason for us to do it.
He's been getting double teamed by me and his roommate, Greggy, for 3 straight weeks now since I got here. So trust me, nothing new.
Greg is the host with the most. Greg is the absolute master at literally scaring Mike Harlow out of his skin. And the thing is, you would think at some point Mike would be like, okay, I know it's coming. I know he's going to do it. I don't know where, but I know it's coming. So I'll be like, okay, he can't do this to me anymore. Every freaking time Greg does it to him, Mike about jumps out of his skin. I'm like, dude, seriously?
And I got to take part in it now. He was on Nina Infinity's show the other night, and I managed to do the jump scare on him, and he still got scared. So I am now part of it.
Yes,
it is a fun experience to scare the ever living shit out of that little, you know what?
Yes, that British that skinny British cigarette.
Yes.
Well, man, it is so good to have you here. It's a black. Yeah, it looks like we have quite a few folks who know you. Robert Lowry's here.
What's up, Robert?
Run across each other at some time or another. So yeah, this is gonna be quite fun. Quite fun indeed.
Yeah.
Waiting for the rest of the crowd to settle on in. But as we do that, because I've seen you on Mike's live stream, I've seen you on your live stream and various other places, and I've tried to do my homework as diligently as I could, but I want to hear it from your own lips. For those who don't know you that well or don't know that much about your channel, let's just start with your background. Where are you from? Tell us about your family. And, I know quite obviously you're a veteran of the United States military. And before we even get down the road, thank you very much for your service, because you guys do stuff that a lot of us, and I'll just come right out and say it. There's stuff you guys do in the name of defending the nation that I could never do. And, it means a lot, because the stuff that you guys are asked to do, if it got down to it, maybe, I don't know, but you guys are trained to do it and you volunteer to do it. So much respect and much love right there.
And the thing is that so many of us, like the kind of stuff you're talking about, we wanted to do it. I was a crazy son of a bitch. Like you saw the airborne patch back here. I was a crazy son of a bitch that was going to volunteer to, instead I wanted to go to airborne school before they said, we're going to give you a bonus of $3,000 to do that. I'm like, twist my fucking arm. Okay. Sorry. I don't know if you're okay at cursing or not. I apologize.
Well, I generally speaking, yes, but if you would not mind, for the sake of some folks who have sensibilities, just keep it a little on the minimum.
That's really hard for a guy like me, right?
Well, in that case, be yourself. But yeah, I mean, for my part, I'm fine. But sometimes I get some folks that get all good. Anyway, so tell us about you. Let's start from there.
Yeah, so I grew up in central Vermont, teeny tiny little middle of nowhere. I guess you could call it a crap hole, but I mean, it's a pretty place. Politically, it got too much later on as an adult after I got out of the Army, so I don't live there anymore. People think that's a red place because I have a Republican governor. Yeah, that's the definition of rhino right there. That is a blue crap hole. But back in the day, it's middle of nowhere, a little freaking, farming town area, all that kind of stuff, nothing big at all. And I decided I want to go into the junior ROTC program, the Army JROTC program at my high school, which was very new at the time. I think it'd only been around for 1 or 2 years. And I knew my freshman year, I was in. Like, I wanted to be a soldier. That's all I freaking knew. So all 4 years of high school, like, people, like, I was in band since I was in 5th grade. I got into the marching band in high school, and I realized that when we did the parades, I couldn't do the marching band and go in my dress uniform and march with the junior RTC. So I quit band. I wanted to look good in those Class A Army uniforms.
Yes, sir.
I got involved in rifle teams, competition shooting. I became one of the best competition shooters in the junior RTC league. I was all into the drill and ceremonies, which is the marching. I was obsessed in reading 22-5, which is the drill and ceremonies manual. I knew everything. I won so many competitions doing that. I also knew I wanted to be a drill sergeant at that point because I loved doing that stuff. And I loved even instructing. I taught kids in high school how to do all that. So I was already on my way. I was always going to have a high and tight. I was shining my boots, pressing my uniform. Like I was made for the Army from freshman freaking year when I was 14 years old. So, yeah, I went in 2000. I'm a first-year millennial, and I was going to do a minimum of 2 years, but I managed to make it 9. Things don't always work out the way that you want them to. And all I knew, a couple things I knew also was, one, I wanted to jump out of planes. I wanted to be stationed somewhere overseas because I wanted to see the world. And I knew I want to be not a desk jockey. I never want to be somebody who's stuck behind a desk, but I also want to be more than just a trigger puller.
Okay.
So I talked to plenty of people. I knew that my one of my instructors, a sergeant major, old Vietnam vet, 75th Ranger Regiment, tough as nails, son of a bitch. I respected the hell out of him, but I decided right there, I didn't want to be infantry. I wanted to be something else. So I got into a specialty that was in military intelligence. That was a boots on the ground surveillance and reconnaissance specialty. We were boots on the ground. We used certain types of technology that was very old school at the time. And eventually that went away because it was an unnecessary risk of human life with the advent of UAV technology and satellite surveillance and everything. So we became obsolete. And I got an email from psychological operations talking about all this high-speed stuff that going active duty PSYOP, you're falling directly under Special Operations Command. You are Special Operations. There's only 3 MOSs in the Army that is actually classified as Special Operations. That is Special Forces, Green Beret, PSYOP, and Civil Affairs. So all that alone sounded amazing. And they have tactical PSYOP. They have 3-man tactical teams that go boots on the ground, supporting directly with Special Operations Forces, where it's Special Forces, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, you name it. And eventually I spent 5 years with them. I did 1 deployment and I was in a tactical company. At the very last minute, the detachment sergeant, what's called the the development detachment, snatched me up and said, "You are now the team leader for the plans and programs team." Desk jockey.
Okay.
And that's how I wrote out my last deployment, was sit behind a desk.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. You said you want to be a drill sergeant. Let me take a stab here in the dark, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I'll bet when you saw Full Metal Jacket and R. Lee Ermey's performance, you're like, "This is my hero, man. This is my guy. This is who I want to model myself after."
I would definitely not say that's like I want to model myself after that guy. I knew that if I was actually going into basic training and I knew that was the kind of thing I was going to be interacting with, I might have second thoughts, because that's pretty damn rough right there. He's actually punching people in the gut and everything. No, I got to meet a lot of guys like in junior RTC. We actually had I'm sure that now when I look back, they're like reservists. There are reservist drill sergeants who, they'll just do their drill duty, and that means they go to basic training unit and just do a couple things here and there every once in a while. But they would go and they would like grade our drill and ceremony competitions. When we go out there and I'm calling commands, if you make a mistake, they're going to judge you and everything. And I got to know these guys and I respected them. And I knew that Army is very different from Marines. And a lot of people want to talk shit on Army for people who want to choose that and just say, oh, it's just because you just can't handle the Marine Corps. That's not the case at all. It really depends on just what you want to do. Like I said, I did not want to be just a trigger puller. I wanted to have some other aspects. So I love the idea of being able to sit in a hole and perform, surveillance operations, watching the enemy. They don't even know I'm there. Stuff like that. And there was just more opportunities for that kind of stuff when you go into the Army versus what the Marine Corps offers. So yeah, I mean, Arlie Ermy is the GOAT. If it came to anyone, when it comes to acting in a military role, you can't beat Arlie Ermy. God rest his soul. But no, there's a lot of drill sergeant performances that I saw that I really respected. I knew I wanted to be one of those drill sergeants that would be respected. That would be tough when I need to be, but then also be rewarding when I need to be as well, when somebody does the right thing.
Oh yeah, I mean it's funny because talking about Full Metal Jacket, they originally brought Arlie Ermy on as a consultant,
Yep.
and he kept looking at the script and he's like, "Nah, this guy's doing it wrong." And finally, he just worked his way into it. And Stanley Kubrick's like, "Well, fine, if you think you can do it better, you just take the role." And he did.
Yeah.
And to this, I mean, Ermy was in a number of different films throughout his career and consulted on a lot of different stuff, but that performance for like the first, half hour, 45 minutes of that movie, he is forever remembered as Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. And
Right.
yeah. Now, you went in 2000, so you're there 9 years. What theaters did you serve in?
So I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a short support tour in Kosovo before anything else. It's obviously not counting train deployments also, because when you're so I was stationed in Italy with the 173rd Airborne Brigade for my first duty station. And when you're a unit like we were in Italy, we were kind of like the military ambassadors to Europe. So they sent us all over places. So we were training in Germany, Tunisia, Czech Republic, Hungary, all kinds of places.
Wow.
And I went all over Europe and North Africa. And in 2001, 9/11 happened when we were on train deployment in Grafenwehr, Germany. And because the 173rd Airborne Brigade is the quick reaction force of the European theater, we were 100% sure we were going to go. We were going to be like some of the first troops going to Afghanistan, because we were already organized. When you're on train deployment, you bring everything. We've got all of our trucks, all of our rifles, everything we need. Didn't know it at the time, but the unit wasn't completely formed yet. The unit only got reactivated in 2000. There was still a whole nother battalion of infantry they were still needing to reactivate before the unit was at full strength. So it wasn't until March of 2003 when we were finally able to deploy, when my unit was used as the primary element to open up the Northern Front in the War of Iraq in March. The original operation was going to be that elements of, I think it was the 4th Infantry Division, was mobilized, and they were supposed to go through Tunisia, cross the border into Iraq, and that was going to be how the Northern Front was open, same as how the Southern element came up from Kuwait, and then they're going to converge on Baghdad. Well, did I say Tunisia? I meant Turkey. Turkey is to the north. Well, Turkey was going through an election period at the time, and the current president didn't want the controversy, so decided not to let them go through. So we were the backup plan. We mobilized in Italy. Unlike everyone else who had to go through Kuwait, we got to still stay on our cushy little base in Italy, and began mobilization. We had to keep everything hush-hush, and eventually everyone boarded up on planes and conducted an airborne operation, jumped into an airfield, seized the airfield, and started bringing in all the troops and weapons from there. Now, I always say that with a caveat, because I was supposed to be on that jump, which is a huge, huge thing. Everyone there got a combat jump star on their wings, which is so rare. My team got scratched the very last minute. We had to fly in 3 days later. So that's been a killer for me ever since then, because it is so rare to see somebody with a combat star on their wings.
Wow.
But yeah, and also what's amazing is right before that was when we did the tour in Kosovo, which now that we look back, they did a jump into Kosovo that we thought was just for training. And now I look back, like that was an intentional training operation to get ready for the jump into Iraq, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew that. Nobody knew that at the time, because we didn't know we were going to be jumping into Iraq. And to cut down, so other than that, I did another tour when I went with PSYOP in 2005 to 2006. And right before that was a short tour, very hardship tour. And I say that joke, but slightly not, to New Orleans for Hurricane Katrina. Because, hey, I got to play to New Orleans, but it sucked. We were sleeping in tents and getting eaten up by mosquitoes every damn night with that stanky ass sludge out there.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Now, you mentioned military intelligence, and we're going to wind up getting into this subject, but since you sort of teed it up for me, because I got to ask you about this.
Sure.
One of the criticisms that has been said of our intelligence service for a long time, and this goes back to even just prior to 9/11, is that we rely too much on our tech and not enough old school espionage, boots on the ground, mano a mano intelligence. In other words, I'm out there working it with somebody, gathering information, working my sources, building my network, etc. Whereas nowadays it's all satellites and whatever other gadgetry we use.
Yeah.
Is that a legitimate criticism of our military intelligence gathering capabilities?
So I can say this much, that the kind of intelligence gathering you're talking about is more at the strategic level, which is CIA and many other elements, NSA, and there's other elements in Joint Special Operations Command that people don't even know about. People just think of Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 when they think of JSOC, but there's actually the most high-level intelligence unit in the Army is one of the least known, and it's in Joint Special Operations Command. I don't know what the hell is even in it. It's very top secret. So my intelligence gathering, like I said, involved me being largely in a hole in the ground where we have to go, ruck 100-pound ruck for, hours at a time, dig that hole in the ground, camouflage it up, and then we sit there and monitor whatever we see. And then there's other options, like we have reconnaissance also, where you go in, you simply go in, get out, all that kind of stuff. But we were relying on technology that we had that was still, that at that time, they made more advanced versions of it, but it all initiated from Vietnam. So we used what was called GSR, which is ground surveillance radars, very small, like the smallest one is just like a box this big and about that thin. And it would go out, I can't remember how many miles, whatnot. And then a very large one that you would mount on top of a Humvee, which obviously goes much farther. And then technology called REMBAS, which was remote operated battlefield sensor systems. There'd be little sensors that would pick up seismic acoustic, magnetic, and passive infrared. So you place these ones, strategically around, depending on where you want to pick up the movements of troops or, vehicles or anything else. Now, like I said, those technologies became basically obsolete because of the improvements of drones, surveillance drones, and satellite technology. Now, what you're getting at, though, at my level is still accurate, because one of the best things about boots on the ground surveillance and reconnaissance is immediate information to whoever the combatant commander is at that time, whether it's a battalion commander, brigade commander, or higher. We were capable of directly communicating to that person's radio operator and letting them know what was happening. Now you have a drone pilot who's all the way out in California while you're in Iraq that has to relay through multiple chains. Same as the satellite technology. It's great technology, but having boots on the ground, that person who can actually report and tell you immediately what's happening, is something that is very lacking in our military now.
Okay. Well, that sort of tees up one of my first questions that I've got for you, because I mean, I had a guest on last night, economist here in my area. And she's also nationally known for appearing on various live streams and podcasts. Wonderful lady, Robin McCutcheon. And we both made the comment, it is a fascinating time to be alive for so many different reasons. And I guess I'll tee up this first question. You served from 2000 to 2009, which means you served under a Republican president and a Democrat president.
No, I got out. I got out as Obama was being inaugurated. I actually got out in January 2009. When I drove back up to Vermont from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, I drove through DC as they were getting ready for his inauguration. So I managed to miss out on by like a week. Okay.
Well, but now let me ask you a question. Undoubtedly, you still have friends in the military on active duty, or they're on reserve or something like that, and they've served under both kinds of presidents. Is there really a difference in how the military operates depending upon which party's president is sitting in the Oval Office?
I am going to say that for what we just experienced for the last 4 years, and also I say to an extent under the 8 years under Obama, The last 4 years, it didn't matter what that person's letter was next to that person's name, being Biden.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll do this one more time, but this might be the last one.
Okay. Go ahead.
Fucked everything up. I mean, massively. Now, I mean, I know we're going to talk about it when it comes to just the name change of Fort Bragg alone. Trust me, civilians out there will probably not understand why that's such a big deal. But for someone like me who was stationed there for 5 years, everyone knows Fort Bragg. Everyone loves that back in Bragg story. We all say back in Bragg. And to change that and take that away from us for their woke ideology because they think that Bragg is offensive, screw you. You just killed the morale of so many troops. Now, is it because it's a Democrat versus Republican? You can definitely make that argument because Democrats clearly don't care that much about the troops. They don't. And I hate to use even the Republican versus Democrat dichotomy because really it shouldn't be a difference. It's the ideology of these people who, Kerry Smith calls it the cult of the left. Mm-hmm. You have the Tom McDonald's out there who I'm a huge fan of, who says, the differences between the left and the right are nothing. You can look at it in a lot of different ways. Like, I think it's evil versus good in a lot of ways because there are people who are willing to sacrifice the safety of those here in this country. They're willing to sacrifice our way of life for their ideologies that mean nothing and will make no positive change to this country or way of life, except for the few people that they have in their victim ideology, which when you talk to Kerry Smith, she calls the victim Olympics, victimhood Olympics, something along that lines.
Yeah.
If you are in that victim culture, then you must be a victim and you have to be the most oppressed of the oppressed. And they are more focused on that than helping anyone else because they hate us. They hate this country. They hate its origin because they've been lied to. They don't understand what this country actually stands for. The great things that this country did, getting rid of slavery before so many other countries did. And I'm sorry I'm going a rant here, but it is relevant.
Dude, you got a wide open field. Go wherever you want.
So they're willing to make all these sacrifices because they don't care. And they also don't understand. They don't understand the threat that there is in this world to our country if we don't have a strong military because they're babies. They're little pansy ass spoiled children who need to get spanked, wake up and see the danger they actually live in if they lose military members like me and my brothers out there who fought and wanted to fight and bleed and if necessary die for this country.
You're saying that and it makes me think of a story that's going to stick in my head forever to the day I go to the grave. Provided I'm not blackout drunk somewhere. No, just kidding.
Amen to that, brother. We gotta have a drink sometime. Now you said that.
Well, I got a bottle of William Wolf in there on the top shelf that's pecan. You ask Mike about William Wolf. It's pecan flavored whiskey.
Ooh, I like that.
You put that over ice. Let me tell you something. The Wolf is a good friend. Let me tell you.
I got to try that sometime.
It was just before the Second Gulf War started and when Colin Powell was visiting somewhere in England. And the Archbishop of Canterbury was in attendance. And you may have heard this story. And if you have, stop me. The Archbishop was very upset, representing a different ideology than Powell was and Powell's former military. He said, well, don't you feel that it's wrong that the United States is trying to take ground that it never had before? And Powell looked him straight in the eye and said, sir, the only ground we ask for is enough to bury our dead.
That's right.
And Normandy, Africa, name the military cemeteries around the world where we didn't take we didn't take an inch of land. All we wanted was just enough land to bury our dead. And that story has always stuck with me. And I'm like,
we are the first country in the history of of human civilization that fought in wars and did not take land or steal the shit of the people that we bought or fought.
No
one has ever done that in history until we started fighting. And that's, I mean, honest to God, every single time any other country has ever gone to war, they have gone in, they've stolen their shit, they've done things to their women, they have taken their land, and they've taken slaves and everything else. We're the first country in human history that did not do that, and we still keep doing that to this day.
Well, and you talk about, you know, that there's a certain mindset. I mean, and I agree with you. The paradigm of left versus right, Democrat versus Republican is forever shattered. Donald Trump has done more to give revelation to why those are so outdated than anybody that I can possibly imagine. But the one story you talk about, a certain ideological mindset that does not care about troops, the worst example of that is Benghazi. When Hillary Clinton sat before the House Armed Services Committee and yelled at them, what difference does it make? They're asking legitimate questions of why did you not do this? Why did you not do that? And she's sitting there, I mean, talking about 8 dead Americans, several of them soldiers, and she looks at them and says, what difference does it make? And I'm like, lady, what you could have done or what you could, I mean, believe me, that was, and Leon Panetta was Secretary of Defense at the time under Obama when Benghazi went down. And the things that could have been done to rescue the ambassador and the military staff at the Benghazi outpost could have easily been done and wasn't. And Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, just left them hanging out to dry, which we could do a whole show on that whole deal. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's a whole mindset that just detests military culture, absolutely detests what you guys have stood for 2+ centuries defending the country. You know,
they have no problem just thinking of us as fodder. I absolutely agree. And I believe so a lot of us, when you go through the military, mind you, I spent 9 years in, close to a decade, if you round up. The first experience when you're in the military, especially as ingrained as I was, like I said, I was a career guy. No matter what I wanted to be in, I wanted to retire military. I wanted to be in for more than 20. And when you're in, you tend to drink the Kool-Aid and you go along with what the experience that you had, because you don't want to believe that what you're doing is wrong. You want to believe 100% your leadership and that every decision is being the right one. That everything we're doing is actually to help. The first experience I had when I got out was realizing that now that I'm out and all I am is a VA recipient, they don't give a shit about me. They don't. All they see me as is a way to lose money. That is all they see us veterans as. And that's why people say, I can't believe the way that you guys get treated as veterans for all you've done. Think about it from their perspective. It's all about money to them. Yeah. How useful are we as veterans? Not at all. We're not useful anymore. We were useful when we were in. You get a Green Beret. I can't remember the dollar sign it was, but there's a massive amount of money for a Green Beret to become combat ready. And he is a huge asset now. There's a reason why we're called GI, government issue. It's a joke. We're nothing but a product to them. Once we are either broken, you'll just go with that. Once we're either broken or obsolete, then all we are is a drain on their funds. And that's the way they see us. That's the way that Hillary Clinton sees us. We are fodder to them. We are a product. We're nothing more than a tank, an inanimate object that will go out. If it gets blown up, it gets blown up. We'll put on a smile. We'll put on a smiley face or a sad face, regardless whatever the situation is. If the person dies, and try to kiss up for the cameras. But other than that, they don't care. It's one of the hard realities that had to hit me when I got out.
No, I have. There's a pollster that I follow. His name's Rich Barris. He's himself former military, and he has chronicled the treatment, or maybe better to say, the lack thereof, that he received at various points after his service in Iraq. And I mean, and that's something I don't think people truly understand, and they're not going to understand unless they're walking in your guys' boots. Donald Trump came in and did something. I mean, he did something beyond just talking about taking care of veterans. Above all else, you can say a lot of things about Trump's first term, but it seems to me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, Trump is like, no, we're going to take care of our vets. Whatever they need, give them. Whatever that you got to do to fix it, you fix it. But you make sure these guys are taken care of. They've worn the uniform. They've sacrificed more than we'll ever know. You make sure they get taken care of. And but I gotta. Well, go ahead with that, and then I'm going to ask you my next question.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't have much for input on that, but I mean, believe me, as a veteran, I definitely saw. And what's actually, I'll even use this as an example. Even my mom, who hates Trump, even she said that she felt like, so I had a case against the army that I was trying to fight for something. I won't go into the details on it.
Sure.
And I guess, she, I guess, had the same impression as the rest of us did, as because the Obama administration didn't give a crap about us. So when Trump was in, I think she actually saw that, hey, maybe there's actually some good stuff here. Maybe we should reopen that case because maybe I can actually have a chance this time. And it's because people did see Trump really does care. He really does actually love this country, and he loves the veterans. That guy went through a military academy. In fact, the military academy he went to in New York was one we did competitions with. I didn't even learn this until later on. We saw these guys. Because if you think about it, for a high school junior RTC team, I'm just in a regular high school that happens to be a drill team. They are in a high school that is all junior RTC, and they're on a drill team. They do this every single day. So we used to see these guys just be like in awe. Donald Trump went through that. And so I see the upbringing that he had when he was even just in high school. Now, he also didn't fall through kind of a military career, but when you go through that kind of experience, you grow in appreciation, just like I did just in an ROTC program. That dude lived it every single day of his high school life.
Yep.
See, yes, he loves our country. He loves our military. And you can see through the programs that he created, the choice program is the best. Everywhere I've lived, I'm always at least an hour away from the main hospital where if you want to get your eyes checked or an x-ray or something like that. Now I have the choice program. There's still a loop or two I have to jump through, but I can get service right, 10 minutes away from my home now, thanks to what he did.
Yeah. Now I got to ask you something, and this is not necessarily trying to be partisan, but you made the statement that Joe Biden in 4 years managed to fuck everything up.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be said of him on so many different levels, regardless of issue. But as it relates to the military, when either you yourself or your brothers in arms, what was it about Biden as the commander-in-chief that just absolutely torqued you guys as bad as it was? It just one thing in particular, or was it just what in general?
How long do you want this show to go for?
No, I don't care. I don't care. Take a run, brother.
I'll say, okay. The number one thing that I'll say that my buddy Scotty back in back home, who was a Marine, new guys at Abbey Gate when we pulled out of Afghanistan.
Oh Lord.
When that was the biggest fuck up possible.
Yeah.
Everyone knew. I don't have to be a general to know you don't leave Bagram Air Base, a well-secured military facility that you could have flown everyone out of. Instead, you abandoned it, left billions of dollars worth of our weapons, which are now being used against our troops, and then try to fly everyone out of the capital there, which became a total cluster F. And we lost 13 service members, including, people don't know this, it was an Army soldier, my old unit, psychological operations tactical team member. I didn't know the guy, but he was in the same battalion as I was, 9th Tactical Side Battalion. Jeez. And so all that was bad enough. But then this guy is so unaware, whether it be his lack of giving any Fs or being completely senile. But when the troops were being carried off of the aircraft on the tarmac, the dude kept on checking his watch. Hey, I got somewhere to be.
I remember the picture.
I got somewhere to be. And you have one, Dad says, if he checks that watch one more damn time, I'm going to lose it. I'm surprised he didn't. Yeah. I am really impressed by that dad and everyone in that crowd to not have lost their absolute shit to that disrespectful piece of crap.
Yeah.
He didn't care. None of these guys care. Whenever they tried to act like they care, it never came off as legitimate. You know what? Any single time that anything came up when it came to the loss of life of service members, including that incident, he talked about his son, Bo. Mm-hmm. I lost a son in combat too. No, you didn't.
You didn't.
No, he died from a disease. I think it was cancer. He did not die in combat.
Exactly.
And he said that over and over and over again. It's bad enough that he made it about him. Instead of actually being sympathetic to the parents and the families he's talking to, he had to make it about him and lied about it, trying to make like his son was so big. Have sympathy for me for losing a combat vet son. Fuck you.
Yeah. No, I don't, dude. I remember the image of him, having that infernal mask across his face and then looking down at his watch. And I'm like, really?
Oh, and his aviator glasses, because he has to have the aviator glass because he looks so damn cool.
I used to love wearing a pair of Ray-Ban aviators. I won't put them on anymore. Not after he's done that. No, I will not. My nephew still loves them. He'll do it. I will not touch a pair of aviators now. And if I do, it'll be good long time before I ever put another pair on because of what he did to those things. Because
I always wanted a pair, especially back in high school, because we got to do a field trip down to Washington, D.C. and hung out with the members of the old guard. The really high-speed Army guys that do the drill team, they're the same ones who do the guard of the unknown soldier and all that.
Yeah.
And that's a part of their uniform, are those exact same kind of aviators, the Ray-Bans. I always thought they look so damn cool in those. Yeah, I always never had them, but now I have the same mentality as you now. Fuck that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
No,
you couldn't pay me to put on a pair of aviators now.
Mm-hmm.
But Robert brings up a really good something else, and I want to get into this because it's got a kind of a question associated with it. And let me find it. Yeah, the pull out of Afghanistan, which is just again, we could do a whole show just on that, and the queering of the service. Now, let me take you back in time because I'm a little touch older than you are. I remember back in the 90s when the great debate was, do we lift the ban on homosexuals in the military? And I'll never forget this. The one person who came out in support of doing it was the last person I ever would have expected, which was the late Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona, himself a combat veteran back in the day, World War II vet, and said, look, you don't have to be straight to shoot straight. And there was a lot of hoopla about it, but in the end, decision was made, and then we put in don't ask, don't tell. Okay, fine. Which worked, which was perfectly fine. Military got used to it, didn't have a problem with it. We moved on down the line. The trans issue in the military became a whole different ball of wax. And if you don't want to talk about this, fine. If you do want to talk about it, that's fine. When Biden kept making the moves that he did to kept pushing what many would argue is an agenda that has nothing whatsoever to do with military culture or military purpose. What kind of reaction did you get from your fellow veterans?
Here's a main argument that I have whenever I talk to anybody who says that they want trans in the military or even that they want women in combat roles.
Okay.
How does it improve the lethality of that unit? How does it improve on its ability to operate and complete the mission? Is there any benefit whatsoever? No, you can't make an argument. I recently talked, and I was really shocked that this person who I know, she's retired Navy. She spent 20 years in the Navy. She was a chief. She was a E7. That's a very high rank to get to. So she was a leader. She was a leader of sailors. Well, she was arguing that women should be in combat, and I had to keep on going through. I'm sorry, I'm kind of sidetracking here, but it's still related.
Perfectly fine. Go ahead.
I had to go through all the physical reasons. She had just talked to my buddy Scotty, same one I was just mentioning, who was a Marine, and there's so many of the physical reasons why not to do it, and she couldn't argue against it. Obviously, I'm sorry, a woman is not going to be able to pick me up at 250 pounds and also carry a 100-pound rucksack at the same time, which could be required if we're in a bad situation. So her argument only came to, well, there's so many benefits of having women leadership. What? Like what? You're telling me that there's something that women have that make them better leaders? That's a ridiculous argument. There's no metrics to prove that. Right. But so my point just is that there's people out there, even someone like her who I know is so base. She's conservative. She loves this country. Well, I say conservative. I just don't know how she actually falls in politics, but she's very pro-America, obviously pro-military. But she still just has it in her mind. And it's probably because she maybe encountered some form of sexism in the Navy or felt like she was being held back. And I'm sorry that if you had that kind of experience, but understand what you're still saying, you're trying to put people into a role that could be dangerous for them and the people around them. We don't need social experiments. We need killers. Bottom line. So I think that's a perfect way to answer the thing about the trans issue too. That's nothing but a social experiment. There's no reason to have them in. Anyone who says it's a benefit, why? You know why? Because they created a motto during the Biden administration, which I quote all the damn time. Diversity is our strength. No, our strength is our strength. Our ability to kill the enemy and break their shit is our strength. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, what's between your pants, or what you want to put in between other people's pants. It doesn't matter. Can you kill the enemy? Can you complete the missions? That's all it fucking is. Everything else is a social experiment that does not need to be in our military.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and I mean, I'll never forget Rush Limbaugh's great line. The military has two purposes: kill things and break stuff. That's it.
That's
nothing else.
That's why Pete Hegseth has been amazing coming in and doing what he's been doing. He's been going around talking to military leadership. We've seen this on the cameras. He's been talking to the troops and saying, we are focused on lethality and accomplishing the mission. That's it.
Yeah.
No more social experiments. We are a fighting force. We are either going to deter wars from happening, or if necessary, we are going to get in there and we are going to kick ass.
Yep. And I popped this up on screen, and I'm bringing this up for a specific reason. Hegseth is supposed to be over there at a conference of military leaders of various nations. And instead he's like, you know what? I'm not even going to this thing. I'm going to go hang out with the troops. And what does he do? He goes to Germany, works out with a very elite fighting force that's stationed out of Germany. And I mean, I want to get into the subject of Hegseth with you, but let me do a real quick commercial. If you have happened on this live stream and you're listening to us both, you know, discussing, ranting, and everything in between, whatever you want to call it. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. This is Adam from Vets Talking. We both have channels on YouTube, and he's got channels all over the place. I got another one on Rumble. Why don't you do us a favor and subscribe to both of our channels? And while you're at it, give us a follow on Twitter. Believe it or not, we are both out there. So now that we've done the commercial, let's get back to business. Okay. I've got to ask you about Hegseth.
I got to give you props on that. I don't do that. I got to do that more often. That is perfect what you just did right there. I've got to learn to do that. Very well done, sir.
Well, I grew up on listening to. I have a lot of misspent years listening to talk radio. So with me, it's Limbaugh, Hannity, the late G. Gordon Liddy, all those cats. And I mean, someone asked me, how'd you learn how to do live stream? I was like, I have no idea how to do live streaming. I have no idea how to do it. And now ask me, have I ever done radio? Well, never for an occupation, but as far as like that style, that's more or less how I model what I do here. Yeah. So, but let's get into Hegseth.
Let's do it.
Hegseth to me has to be one of the most interesting and refreshing changes I've ever seen, regardless of cabinet position. But for the Department of Defense, he absolutely is not, because where do we normally get the past few, let's put it like that. Where do we get our Department of Defense secretaries of defense? Either they're former military, or they have served in different administrations and different functions, or, they've gone to the right places. They hang out with the right people. I mean, I could rattle off a list of people that at one time or another have served in different, social strata in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Hegseth is a former military man himself who got, I think, what was his highest rank? Captain, I think, if I remember correctly.
He was definitely at least captain. I can't recall if he got to major or not.
Okay. But at a minimum, he got to captain. Let's just assume for a moment he never got higher than captain. Okay. Here's a guy who was boots on the ground. Okay. Serving with, he wasn't hanging out with the military hoi polloi and the brass. Okay. This guy was in the mud and the blood and the everything else. Okay.
He did get to major.
All right. He did. He made major. Okay.
05. Yeah.
All right. So here's a guy who's in the blood and the mud and everything else. He is they used to say that Omar Bradley was the common man's general back in the day. You could make the same argument about Hegseth. Now, I got to ask you, Hegseth has only been in, maybe 2.5 weeks, if that?
Yeah, Trump's up on 3 weeks. Hegseth got a little bit after him. So yeah, about I'll say 2.5 maybe.
What are you noticing about Hegseth off the jump? I mean, this guy hits the ground and you're noticing what about the military?
I'll say this as an example for the first thing of one of the greatest high-ranking leaders that I knew of was Colonel Yarbrough, who was my first brigade commander when he was brigade commander of the 173rd Airborne Brigade when I got there in 2001. This guy just had a presence about him. I met him a couple of times, very brief. Obviously, I was a cherry private, but he was someone who just had a persona about him that you knew, like he would be, cordial with you, and he's very well spoken. But you also knew that behind his eyes, that man was a killer. You knew that he would go through hell with you if he had to. And unfortunately, I never got to deploy with that guy. We ended up having Colonel, I think, Mayville took over right before we went to Iraq in 2003, who was fine. But at the same time, we never got that element of enthusiasm from the guy. When Colonel Yarbrough gave a speech, he never lifted up notes. He would say it right from his heart and out of his brain. And you could tell it's from his heart more than anything else. And he did that with enthusiasm. When Colonel Mayville showed up, I knew the guy was probably a good leader, a good strategist, did everything fine behind the scenes, but he read from his notes and just had no gravitas about him. We were still going to fight because we were still proud and we were still full of piss and vinegar and we were ready to go to war. But I'm just using that as an example because the prior Secretary of Defense, who we see the joke of, he was out there in a foreign country, had all these weird medals around him and a mask and a face shield covering him up. Yeah. And every single time you ever heard him spoke, I don't know who this guy or who the hell he is, but I'm not motivated any way, shape, or form. He's fat as fuck. Looks like he couldn't run a mile to save his life. And I guarantee if anything were to go down, he'll just expect to sit back and eat donuts and let you do it. Pete is somebody who I know damn well, even now after he's been in, I just get the impression, the feeling from the guy that he's someone I would want to serve. I would want him to be my commander. I would go to hell and back for him. Yep. And seeing him, there you go. Look at that Joker. Now, apparently the story is one, those are not U.S. Marines. It's someone in a different country. The story is they required him to put the mask on. Nonetheless, that is pathetic. That looks pathetic. And every time I've ever seen him, the man looks pathetic. As opposed to this man right here. He is out there with 110th Special Forces Group. These guys are Green Berets that he's out there working out with. Not only that, he flew in just 2 hours before this. He's jet lagged. He's tired. But he said, you know what? I'm still going to go out there and I'm going to work out with these guys. Mm-hmm. The guy is one of those men who understands what it is to be a boots on the ground guy. When he was talking today in an interview and somebody asked him about doing that, he said, you know what? It wasn't that long ago that I was out there with those guys. Mm-hmm. Mind you, he was a major. Being a major, he likely at that point meant he was probably in a staff position, but that meant that his position before that was company commander. And I've had people tell me this, officers tell me this. Company commander was their last favorite role because you are still able to be there with the men. Once you get beyond that, once you become battalion commander, you're in an office role now. It's the company commanders who still interact with the soldiers. So that was I guarantee that was one of his last memories, was still being able to be a company commander and be able to work with his infantrymen. Yeah. So in that interview, that's when he went to the general. He said, I'm sorry, no offense, General, but I can relate more to these guys than I can to you. And I think that's kind of a burn on the general too, because everyone who spent more than a day in the military, you have to at least probably get to a couple higher levels and you'll notice the 4-star generals ain't shit. The 4-star generals, they are not getting out in the field with you. They ain't going to go dig foxholes or anything. They are politicians at that point. Yeah. All right. They are. It's so unfortunate, but it's true. They're more worried about getting their next star or their next position or whatever nice job they're going to get when they get out of the military. And it sucks, but it's true. Hegseth is not that. Hegseth is someone who understands the guys who are boots on the ground. He understands how to motivate them, and he just understands that we want somebody to respect, and that's what he's bringing right now.
Well, let me ask you a question, because it was recently reported that because one of the worst problems that we had, and I say we, I'm talking about the United States in general, was during the Biden era that we could not hit our recruitment numbers regardless of which branch of the military you're talking about.
Yep.
Now I got some theories on this, but since you're military and former military, I want to hear this from you. I've got the feeling, and you set me straight if I'm wrong, I get the feeling that young men or young women, depending on which, would look at the Biden administration and go, I don't want to be part of this culture. Because, I mean, let's be honest. The military is its own unique institution. And I don't mean that in a bad, pejorative way. What I mean is when you go in and when you come out, and even after you come out, you are a part of a lifelong fraternity. You have been baptized into a culture that has one role: defend the country. If necessary, die doing it, but you will defend this country to the utmost of your ability. And not only are you doing it, you have brothers and sisters out there doing it with you.
Yep.
So there's really no such thing as former military. I mean, it's like look at a Marine and say, "Oh yeah, you're a former Marine." That person's going to look at you and go, "Excuse me, what?" But young people,
I'll say I'm a veteran, and for me, that title means enough alone. I'm a veteran. I'm someone who's been there and done that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to say former Army, former paratrooper, or anything like that. I have no problem just saying I'm a veteran of the United States Army.
Yeah. But young people would look at what was going on in the Biden years. And again, if I'm wrong, someone can set me straight. They'd look at that and go, I do not want to be part of this. This culture is not what I want to sign up for. However, in December and in January, the Army had its best recruiting months that it had had in 10 years I think it's 10 years in the case of December and 15 years in the case of January.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to ask you, what do you attribute that to?
A lot of what you just said. One, there's nobody wanted to serve in this military. And there's a number of reasons for that. Now, a lot of people kept on trying to use the excuse of saying because there was the forced jab. You gotta be careful what you say.
Okay.
That got a lot of troops out. My understanding, I think, is something around 7,000 troops end up getting kicked out. I know there's a lot of troops who probably end up getting out, whether it's their option to re-enlist or option to retire. I would have been at my 20 years in 2020. I would have hit 20 years exactly. You better believe I would have retired before taking that. So I'm sure that the numbers are so much higher than 7,000, but the 7,000 ones who got kicked out. So they attributed a lot of the low recruitment to that. Now, I'm sure that had a big effect. However, it's the total accumulation of the failures of this organization, the failures of the people who are operating this administration and operating our military, who just destroyed all morale, any pride to want to serve this country, any pride to want to put on the uniform. There is none. When you're going out there and you're using a Transformer Navy sailor who's going on TikTok showing pictures of it in uniform and then snapping a finger, it's got a drag queen outfit on. That's one of their ambassadors. Who takes pride in that?
Yeah.
Who takes pride? And tell me, even from the LGBT alphabet community, how many people are really looking at that and saying, that's the military I want to serve in? Now, granted, there are. I've seen way too many of the videos out there of the people who are saying, I went in so that I could get my gender affirming care surgery, or I went in for whatever stupid or they went in and then they end up complaining and bitching all the damn time about the military being too tough, when really they probably just got misgendered and then they're crying about it. Nobody wants to serve in this kind of military.
Yeah.
I would bring this up. It's crazy that this is so early on, but it only got so much worse since then, when they came out with the fruity, flowery cartoon ad. Have you seen this one about the female soldier who said she wanted to join the army because of her two moms and to fight social justice?
No, I have not seen this.
Woo! Okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't you try typing that into YouTube while I continue on my little soapbox rant here?
All right, go right ahead.
because this is early on. I think I really first got this before I started my YouTube career, which is 2 years ago. So I guess it was probably halfway through the Biden administration. But they in Crowder, they showed this commercial, which, like I said, fruity, flowery, stupid, talking about seeing their moms get married and everything, and then showing a Russian army ad. And the Russian army ad, they're showing their boots splashing in the mud, showing explosions, showing these big burly guys shooting their guns, clearing rooms, and doing all this badass shit. Because why? They want killers in their army for their military to be effective at killing the enemy, breaking their shit, and accomplishing the mission. Our military, they want a social experiment. They want to bring in gay people. They want to bring in females into combat roles. They want to bring in Transformers. And God, I wish it was real Transformers, not me trying to be YouTube safe here, for a social experiment. And what does that do? Like I said earlier, what does any of that do to make the unit more effective, more lethal, better to be able to accomplish the mission? Not a fucking thing.
Oh yeah. I'm looking for the one you're talking about. But I did a video real early on with my channel about a drag queen influencer in the U.S. Navy, and I'm sitting here going, "What the hell?" I mean, it blew my mind. It's like I couldn't believe it. I think I just found the one. I think I just found what you're looking for. Keep talking for a second. I'm gonna.
It was amazing just how many times, like during Gay Pride Month, or man, I think they even made Trans Pride Month, and also kinds of the U.S. Army account, whether it was on Twitter, X, TikTok, or whatever, they would always find some Transformer officer or something. Like there's Major, I can't remember what I'm gonna say his. I don't care about misgendering this person. This is an Army Major. This weird curly hair, showed him like up against pride flags on the wall, this Army office, holding 2 trans flags and a pride flag, something like that, and then showing him sitting at his desk with a placard that says, "Hi, my pronouns are she, her." Now that was bad enough, but I just recently took a trip back to my old stomping grounds of Fort Bragg, which, by the way, it's Fort fucking Bragg again. Thank you, Pete Hegseth. Was Fort Liberty because of the woke stupid bullshit. Now I changed it back to Fort Bragg because Bragg is always going to be Bragg. And I went there and I was hanging out and managed to meet, as one of my old stomping grounds there, the Jumpers Nightlife for paratroopers. And this dude who just got out of the Army, he knew someone who was stationed with that douchebag, this Transformer, this man who's putting on long hair and saying he's a woman. And they said, she said that this person loved messing with the soldiers. If they got his pronouns wrong, he would love to say, if they get confused, that he would love to mess with them, say, "You just don't even know what to call me." What does that do for morale? I was a leader. I was a non-commissioned officer in the Army. When you go through school for that, it was called PLDC. I won't go through the explanation of it. You learn how to be a good leader, and being a good leader in the Army doesn't just mean yelling at people. Now, people see what drill sergeants do and everything like that. That's only part of it. If you need to discipline the soldier. Other than that, there are ways you learn how to properly treat a soldier that is going to encourage that person to be proud, to be wanting to work for you, all this good kind of stuff. To intentionally just have fun fucking with them like that is a terrible damn leader. And especially because a damn Transformer in our fucking military that should not have been there at all.
Oh yeah. I think I found part of what you're talking about. This one is just mind blowing to me. I mean, I've got it here.
It's an actual Army ad, can you?
Oh, I know. Hang on, let me get this pulled up. Zippy with a super chat. Thank you very much. They want to bring in Soviet style social management. Yeah, buddy, you got that right. You got that right.
If you want, I'll ducktail off of that real quick before you bring this up. Yeah, that's the one. These people who got put in charge for recruitment and everything, they think about early on after Jan 6, they actually think that that they thought troops in the military that were MAGA, pro-Trump, all that, they were looking for them and trying to get rid of them. I guarantee these people who were put in charge, they wanted to root out all conservative, actual good war fighters out of our military, and they're trying to draft leftists. That's why they're putting out ads like this. That's why they started saying you can have your transformer surgeries if you come in. All this crap, because they did not want people like me and you in the military. They wanted these people because these are their people that they trusted. They thought we were the enemy.
Well, I tell you what, let's take a look at this real quick, and here we go.
When I was 6 years old, one of my moms had an accident that left her paralyzed. But she tapped into my family's pride to get back on her feet, eventually standing at the altar to marry my other mom. And after meeting with an Army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength. I'm U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone Lord, and I answered my calling.
Okay, now I'm going to fast forward that a little bit to another video or videos, and I think this is the one we're looking for right here. Hang on one second, folks. Yep, hang on. Here we go.
Most 18 to 20-year-old men would be more likely to sign up if the Army placed greater emphasis on training and equipping troops to overcome the nation's enemies, rather than teaching them to embrace their preferred. In 1789, this nation and win.
Well, obviously,
strong.
Obviously, he's making the point that we are that. Yeah, the kind of people that you put out that kind of stuff. What he's talking about there, when you want the people who can actually serve and actually really fight and protect this country, but that's not what they're looking for.
No,
that's not what they're looking for. And actually, and I'll tell you, I talked to a guy who was 19 years Army. He was in the National Guard. So he's part time. He was like there's some constructions being done on my home, and I was talking to him. And he was a recruiter, and he said that there was a new initiative to target blue areas more than they normally would, because in the past, blue areas they would typically avoid. They wouldn't put that much focus on there because it's really hard to get leftists to want to join the military. They're not military. They're not the military kind of qualities that we're looking for. They're not going to join. They would more focus on red. So they would actually put an actively more focused initiative to bring focus into blue areas. My initial thought was because they're having low recruitment problems already. Now I do believe it was intentional. They moved away from the red areas and they wanted leftists in the military. They wanted to get rid of people like you and me because we are their enemy.
Well, let me ask you a question, and to step just slightly away from what Hegseth is doing at the Pentagon, and we're going to come back around to it, because the Elon and the Doge boys are about to pay a visit to the Pentagon, and that's going to be fascinating. Just fascinating. But as you look across the globe, and as you look at the state of the military, what right now, February 11th, 2025, if someone said, Adam, how ready are we to engage in a straight up military conflict with one or more nations around the world? Your response, now let me set this up with something else. We have a 2 million personnel armed forces, okay? Broken down between various branches, reserves, National Guard, etc. If someone asked you, are we ready to take on somebody in a straight up fight militarily, your answer would be what? And your answer would be why?
No. And for multiple reasons. One, they've decimated our equipment, our oil reserve. The oil reserve that we have, that Biden drained, which as far as I know, I know we were talking about that, a couple of years ago when he first started draining that so that he could lower gas prices. That oil reserve is actually intended for strategic reason, meaning if we were in a big actual straight up war like you're talking about, and suddenly we need to tap into oil because we don't have enough to supply the civilian side and to keep our trucks driving, boats floating, and airplanes flying. As far as I know, that's still dangerously low.
Yeah, it is.
Excuse me. Also, on top of that, I know that our equipment has not been properly replenished. It is in very great disarray. I know that they've been focusing on technologies and weapon systems that have been complete failures and was not necessary. We are actually behind. There's a reason why President Trump created the Space Force, because our enemies have actually already begun initiatives to weaponize space, and we were very far behind that. Everyone picked on him for it. No, we needed a Space Force. Well, look at who's been running the Space Force. One of the faces of this woke military is a man-to-woman transformer who's in our Space Force, who went out there giving speeches about in pressing upon leaders in our Space Force to put pronouns in their freaking emails, rather than doing what? Focus on protecting our freaking country from spatial warfare. Their focus has been wrong for 4 damn years. I need to impress on everyone to answer your question. That is a lot of damage that can be done in 4 years to our military that is dependent on being the best military in the world, because we have a lot of enemies that want to take us down. We have low morale. Thank God the morale's coming back, but we have leadership that it needs to be washed out right now. We've already started the process. The commandant of I think that's the title, commandant of the Coast Guard, is gone because this person has been focused more on putting women and transformers and all that into command positions rather than people who are actually qualified. And that is leadership throughout the military. This has been going on since the Obama years. Those of us who are in the military, and we've been talking to people who are in, we've known, like I talked to officers who were in the Obama era. They were putting out, I can't remember what the terminology is, but they're putting out questionnaires or litmus tests. They're putting out a litmus test, basically asking how obedient they would be if they're given orders that they should not be following, such as, would you be willing to fight, to shoot upon or give an order to fire upon U.S. citizens? That's actually something that went out. And Obama got rid of the people who were not yes men. And that is the problem, is that our leadership right now, everyone who actually has any real important roles got there because they knew they would only get there by doing the right thing to get that position. In other words, not the right thing for our country, not the right thing for our military mission, but the right thing to get them promoted. And that's under Obama and under Biden. I know that Trump, he tried, but I know for sure that he was not able to do enough in 4 years to fix the situation, because we know as well also that the 4 years he was in, he was hamstrung. He was tied down by the terrible leadership that he put in. And we know the reason why he put the people in, because he thought he could actually put enemies in and get them to work with him. Instead, he had no idea how deep the swamp was, and everyone turned against him. He did some great things, but thank goodness he realizes now he's untied now. He can do what he needs to do, but he has a lot of fixing that he needs to go through. And our military right now, I do not trust its ability to be able to fight toe-to-toe with China, which I think is our biggest threat right now. I think Russia has been greatly damaged by its war with Ukraine. And I think that I would hope that Putin actually would not want to go to war with Trump. I think they could probably consider themselves allies, not the way the left wants to fucking portray them as. But China is a dangerous threat right now. And I'm very worried about what their capabilities are, because they have infiltrated our country in a lot of ways. They have land that they purchased around our military bases all over this country. They've been performing surveillance on us in a lot of different ways, and I'm very worried that they have technology in place that could shut down our system at the snap of a finger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just as an example, and this blew my mind. A Chinese weather balloon goes flying over the continental United States. I mean, it's bad enough that it flew over Alaska. I mean, you can say, okay, it's far enough away, No,
that's whatever. A very strategic piece of land for our military.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's the jumping off point to Russia, it's the jumping off point to Japan, it's the jumping off point to a lot of places in the Southeast.
Yep.
But then it goes over the continental United States, and not just goes over the continental United States, goes over military bases, and no one's shooting this thing down. I'm sitting here going, what's the matter with you people? Do you not realize? First of all, nobody had any idea what the capabilities of that weather balloon were, whether it was actively transmitting data. And then we find out after the fact, oh, yeah, by the way, it was actively transmitting data back to China. And I'm sitting here going, you idiots.
It could have dropped any number of weapons on us. It could have dropped a virus that could have killed our entire damn population. I mean, it's amazing. Any single possibility you can imagine that could have been a worst case scenario could have happened with that one freaking bus-sized goddamn fucking blimp up there. And just let it go across our whole damn country over a week.
Yeah, and then finally when it gets out near the Atlantic Ocean, like, oh, okay, we can take it down now. That's out of civilian. I'm like, guys, the civilians would have been happy if you'd have shot it down over Montana. Just take the thing out. Just do it. But I mean, it's just
if it freaking crash landed on somebody's house, I'll bet that person would have been proud.
Yeah,
hey, landed on my house. Thank God we got out of the air.
Yeah, I needed a new roof anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, you kind of got into something that I've been worried about is we've got, what was the number that I saw? Hang on a minute. Overseas right now, we've got 156,000, according to reports from like about a year ago, 156,000 active duty U.S. troops stationed overseas, not counting active combat deployment. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this gets into the role of the military in the 21st century. There is a great debate that now that Trump is back in, that is going to rage in earnest about, do we go with the concept of Fortress America? In other words, we're here, North American continent, Europe, you've had 20 centuries of mischief that you've been doing for centuries, and you're still creating mischief. You don't need us to help you with your mischief. We're going to pull our people out. If you want to keep NATO, that's your own business, but we're out. The other side of that argument is what we have under Biden, Obama, W, his dad, etc., and Clinton to a certain extent. But I would make an argument that Clinton was not nearly the interventionist that Obama and Biden were, or even W for that matter.
Right.
What, in your opinion, I mean, I agree with you about China. I'm more worried about China than anybody else. The Russians, to me, could be what I'll call a frenemy. Okay?
Yes.
We don't agree with you on everything, and you don't agree with us on everything, but there ain't no way neither one of us want to be beholden to the Chinese. Xi Jinping is just a bad cat.
Yeah.
So and the irony to me, and again, we could go hours on this subject. The irony to me, and I've never understood this. Well, I do. For 30 years, we have tried to treat the Russians like they're some kind of conquered vassal, as opposed to saying, look, you were under some bad leadership in the Soviet Union. We don't agree with you on everything, and you don't agree with us on everything, but you know what? We'll find a way to work together. And Putin, for decades, has been trying to signal to the West, guys, we're not the enemy here. All we want you to do is you mind your own business over there. Just don't expand east toward our border, and we're cool. No, we keep pushing up against the Russian border, and again, a whole other subject. In your opinion, or maybe in the opinion of your fellow veterans, where should we be in this argument? Are we, and I hate the term isolationist, because it's not isolationism that some people are arguing for. They're just arguing for, look, we're not going to, if it ain't our chicken, we're not going to pluck it. Okay. Yeah. We're not going to go messing with it. And then the other side says, no, we've got to be everywhere. We have to defend the world. And I'm like, from what? So when you talk to your fellow veterans, what do you hear from them on this argument?
All right. So specifically talking to other veterans, I can't recall any direct conversations as to exactly what you're talking about. I don't think it's really a common conversation that we really have.
Okay.
I mean, I have my own opinions, but it's also very hard to really consider, because one thing, okay, like I said, I was in for 9 years. I wasn't at a high level. However, I did work at operational level with PSYOP. I have some understanding of what the mindset is for these higher ranking officers when it comes to their thinking of what we need to do operationally, strategically. What we're talking about, that's the top level. So you're talking about strategy. Do we become more defensive rather than offensive? Like as it is right now, my former unit, 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vicenza, Italy, we were, like I told you, it would be the quick reaction force for that region of Europe. And this is very much in the Cold War era. A lot of our defensive positions that we had in the European theater was in reaction directly to any possibilities of conflict with Russia. Now, that conflict has shifted. There's a reason why after I got out in 2009, a lot of bases in Germany, a lot of units got pulled out. There's not nearly the same presence in Germany as there was before. That being said, they did make another change. Now there's a reason why there's there's 1st Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group is in Germany now. That didn't used to be the case. They're based out of Fort Carson, Colorado. So now they have a Special Forces element there. I try to use, whenever I talk like this, try to think of the game Risk. Like I'm assuming you played Risk. I played a lot of that when I was a kid, and it's a lot when I was in the Army. Whenever you see, depending on how your strategy goes, because I would have a strategy where I'll build a lot over here when my tent is, the next couple moves, I'm going to move it all over here for an assault. But if you end up seeing a buildup of forces, and especially when you have different forces, like say you have a Special Forces group or maybe a specialized Air Force wing or something like that, that's developing in an area, the opposition is going to start to say, okay, I need to figure out why they're doing that. What are they planning on doing? And one of the things that everyone kept on doing with the fuck around and find out element with Russia was they kept, like you said, they kept on moving on the borders out there. There's a reason why they got antagonized into attacking Ukraine.
Yep.
Nobody out there wants to talk about the fact that they were building forces just like I said, not even covertly. Like I said, like I could build my bases over here in this one and then eventually move them over here. They were building right on the freaking border, man. And Russia's going to say that eventually, okay, I guess it's fuck around and find out time. So they got antagonized into it. And believe me, I have no problem throwing on that tinfoil hat and go with the conspiracy theory. I think there's something on there. There was some kind of a conspiracy going on. And I hate when people stigmatize that word. A conspiracy is two or more parties talking together without the knowledge of another party to, man, my dictionary definition sucks, but you know what I'm saying. It is a deliberate action of multiple parties against another party to hurt them in some way. There was some sort of conspiracy there, I believe, to antagonize Russia into attacking Ukraine. That's my theory, but it's based in fact. Now, what you're talking about, how should we position ourselves now on the strategic level? Again, that's really hard to answer because I wasn't at that level.
Sure.
I understand why elements of the 173rd is nice strategically to be placed in Italy, but it is more for the benefit of Europe than it is for the U.S. Now, can we go with the argument like they did this to us in Iraq? When we said we're attacking Iraq now, so they can't attack us in the homeland in the U.S. I don't think that was actually a damn problem.
No.
Now, do we need the 173rd to be in Italy to keep them from attacking us in America? No, I don't think so. It's protecting our ally. But our ally is not giving is not helping us in return while we are contributing tens of thousands of, man, I mean, definitely more than that. I mean, tens of thousands at least for the unit there. And you've got a Navy base in Naples. We've got an air base in northern Italy. I mean, we're all over there. That's the benefit of Italy, while Italy has not been doing shit for us. So what's the benefit?
Yeah.
I think just like we've been hearing Trump saying, there is none. Do your part. If you want us there, you better give us a reason to be there, because we're not just going to be there and have you taking advantage of us anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, going back to the question about, I mean, I can remember, and I will recommend to you two different YouTube videos. One of them is by a journalist, Vladimir Posner. He's older now. He's in his latter 80s, early 90s. He gave a lecture up at Yale University in 2017. And this was before, everything, all hell broke loose in Ukraine. Going through the history of the U.S.'s relationship to the Soviet Union, now Russia, And more particularly, he references something that it's on file at George Washington University in their online archive. Communiques between then Secretary of State James Baker under Poppy Bush and the Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev, and where we promised the Russians, flat out promised the Russians, not 1 inch. And this is the phrase he used, not 1 inch. NATO would not expand 1 inch beyond where it was in 1991. And Gorbachev was like, fine, that's fine. If you want to reunite Germany on that basis, cool. All we ask, don't move NATO east. And if you stop and think about it, if your country had been invaded by two different Western European powers over the course of 2 centuries, you'd get a little bit antsy if somebody gets up on your border.
Oh, yeah.
And then Clinton comes in, and about 7 years after that promise from Baker, we add Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. And the Russians start screaming, wait a minute, you're in violation of your word. We ignored them. Then we kept adding and adding and adding, and now we're where we're at.
I didn't know that.
Oh no,
I did not know that.
We promised the Soviet Union before it fell. Yeah. And like I said, go to George Washington University. It's in their archives. They've got it there. You can see the communiques where Baker promises Gorbachev, not 1 inch. We will not move 1 inch east of where we are now.
And they've done nothing but keep expanding over and over and over again. Just like a game of Risk. The game of Risk. You start seeing those troops moving.
And then you had the Minsk Accords, which were negotiated by Angela Merkel of Germany, along with Macron of France, where, they promised the Russians, okay, look, we'll get the Ukrainians to back that. They violated Minsk 1. They violated Minsk 2. Putin standing there looking like a fool. Like, you guys promised me this. And, I mean, there's just a whole... The other video that I recommend to you is Dr. John Mearsheimer. He gave a lecture in Italy, and I want to say it was in June of 22. It just goes through and lays out brilliantly the whole history of how we'd gotten from where we were to where we are. I mean, if anybody wants a primer on the position of a lot of people, why it is the U.S. is at fault for this whole war between Russia and Ukraine, those two gentlemen lay it out better than anybody else. And I recommend it highly to you.
I would also recommend back to you, since obviously you obviously do amazing research on this. I'm going to assume you know who Dan Bongino is.
I do.
Okay. Dan Bongino has done a lot of research on all this as well. He has a book out there. Even when he brings it up, he's saying, I'm not trying to tell you to buy my book. Find somebody else who bought it, or go to the library. Somehow at least find a way to read this book. And it was all about, I think the book might have been called Follow the Money.
Yep.
Can't remember if that's the name of the book or the name of a chapter, but but the book is about Ukraine, the Biden corruption, and basically he wrote the book before the war between Russia and Ukraine kicked off, but he's bringing it up how everything that he mentioned in that book tied into how that war started and how it shows all the reasons why we are continuing to give little baby bitch boy Zelensky more and more money over and over again. And it's mind-blowing. He had it all laid out. He knew this was going to happen, essentially, without even knowing there's going to be a war. But, man, that guy, like you're saying, like the people you're talking about, they're all over it. So is Dan Bongino, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, since it's the bottom of the hour, let me do one last quick commercial, and then we'll bring the train into the station with another topic. Folks, this is probably one. I have all kinds of fun guests on my channel, but I'll tell you what, I'm having a load of fun tonight. This is Adam from Vets Talking. He's got channels on YouTube, on all kinds of places and spaces, which, by the way, links to all of his social media are in the description of this live stream. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative, and this is Chattin on the Porch. Like I said, occasionally we get together, talk about all kinds of different topics. If you're not subscribed to either one of us, please consider giving us a subscription. Hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment in chat, share the link around. Go crazy, people. what can I tell you? What else can I ask of you about that? All right.
I see some of my fellow military members down here. I know Goodnight, Mr. Thompson. You've been on my channel before. I don't know if you're already familiar with him. All the guys out here, part of the Barracks Bastards from Vets Talking. If you're in here and you have not already, double tap that like and subscribe for this man right here. Get down, beat your face, and continue to push until I tell you to recover. Sorry, continue. Or until you subscribed.
What he said. All right. All right. This one, we're going to bring the train into the station with this topic, but I got to ask you about this. I can remember way back in the day, and this was back during Reagan and Star Wars, that there were people bitching and pissing and moaning about $400 hammers and $900 toilets at the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
And no one could figure out why we're paying $400 for a hammer or $900 for a toilet. And everybody's theory at the time was, well, this is how they're trying to siphon money off for the Star Wars research and blah, 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 blah. Now, that leads into the overall topic, spending at the Pentagon. We're talking about a budget, roughly speaking, that ranges anywhere 900 billion to a little over like 1.1 trillion, depending on whose estimate you look at. Okay. Now, let me also set it up with this. I want the military to have everything it needs to defend the United States with the most lethal amount of force necessary to defend the country. I don't believe in scrimping on that. In other words, the primary mission of the military, hell yes. If they want, a bunker busting bomb to get somebody 5 miles down on the ground, go for it. On the other hand, there are a lot of people, and I think the concern is legitimate, that they're like, yeah, there's been a lot of wasted fraud over the years at various places. Maybe we ought to go take a look at the Pentagon, which leads me to my new favorite band in America, Elon and the Doge Boys.
And Big Balls.
Yeah, Harry Balls, actually. He's updated his name now to Harry Balls. Harry Balls,
because Big Balls made an appearance, and Elon was jealous of all the attention he was getting. So now Elon is Harry Balls.
So I got to get your thoughts on this as a veteran. Like I say, giving the military everything it needs is cool. Giving our veterans what they deserve, absolutely. But just your opinion. When Elon and the Doge Boys take a run through the Department of Defense and the Pentagon in particular, are they going to find all this overspending on crazy stuff, or what? Or are they going to find stuff that nobody thought would ever see the light of day? And is that maybe in part why there's such resistance to what he's doing?
You really want to put your tinfoil cap on? Holy shit.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Just about to fall out of the slot here. I've had that happen before. This thing is so busted. It's just like I keep on fucking with it and it eventually falls out. No, if you put your tinfoil cap on, there are some channels out there that I highly respect that put out. One of them is the Wi-Files. If y'all are familiar with that, check out the Wi-Files on. Oh man, do you know what the group is called? It's escaping me. The ones that do all the research for new technology in the military. Someone in the chat is going to know.
Okay.
There is a massive amount of money that is disappearing from our defense budget every single year. Where it's going, who the hell knows? But better believe.
Wait, hold on. When you say disappearing how?
DARPA, thank you. DARPA, which is the Defense Something Research. DARPA is the main organization that does all the research on all the new technologies, and it is top fucking secret. I mean, they're the ones who coming out, when stealth technology was not even known to believe, they were working on stealth technology 10, 20 years before we ever heard about the F-117 stealth fighter. All right. These guys are working on scary fucking shit. I mean, I'm talking about everything you can imagine, from AI to nerve agents to any kind of like super high-tech technology. They could have anti-gravitational crap right now for all we know. The common understanding that we used to have when I was a cherry private back in the 2000s, when I was being told by people who had been in the Army, DARPA and the U.S. government has technology that we won't know about for 10 years. It is active right now, and I meant that. Like, at that time in the 2000s, it was only 10 years later when they already had that stuff going that it was finally released. It was declassified. It was out there. Now the common understanding is they are 20 years more advanced. So you think of some of this incredible technology that we have out there right now, and the scariest one I can think of is AI. People look at ChatGPT and think that's high speed, good high-tech technology. Imagine it being 20 years more advanced. I would not be surprised at all if there is like Terminator level AI right now that somehow they're managing to keep contained, but they've got like actual real. Anyways, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, when you ask me where the money's going, money that's disappearing, you look into the skunk works. That is one of the biggest ones, and I haven't done enough research to really tell you exactly what it is. But the skunk works is one that does a lot of weird shit, that has money that is believed that they're doing projects that are blacked out. They're working on stuff that they're managed to keep away from the books. Lockheed Martin, I think, is one of the other ones. Lockheed Martin, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, it could be another aviation one, has been doing a lot of technology that is crazy, corrupt. There's a lot of secrecy behind it. And I'm only telling this off the top of my head. I'm sorry that I can't get better details, because whenever I do this kind of stuff on my show, like I will only say it if I'm going to show you the receipts. Like I will only show that, like, here's the receipts that I'm showing you. This is actually real shit. So I'm sorry I wasn't prepared to talk about this.
No,
but
that's fine.
That's why I don't want anyone out there to assume that what I'm telling you is true. Do your own research. Look up the skunk works, look up DARPA, look up all this kind of stuff, and then try to find the actual receipts that can prove me wrong or right. But there is a lot of black programs out there that people don't even know about. When you look at the movie Independence Day, when they went to Area 51 and the president is like, how did I not know about this? I can't remember the term they use, but it's a very common one. Whatever, you have the deniability. What's
deniability?
Plausible deniability, something like that. So the president himself is not even going to be privy to this technology. That way, they can actually get away with breaking the law and going forward with, man, there is scary shit like human experimentation. That's one of the big, like when you look at MK Ultra, you're familiar with MK Ultra, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing. That's not a conspiracy theory. That has been declassified. MK Ultra was real. They were experimenting on human beings for mind control. So when I talk about where's the money going, we don't know exactly, but when you look into all these rabbit holes that I just laid out, there's a lot of stuff going on right now that it's very obvious our government is doing a lot of shit that they're keeping secret from the American people. And I'll tell you what, man, when they try to open up those doors in the Pentagon, you think the pushback for the Department of Education is going to be dirty. Let's wait to see what happens here.
Well, and that gets into a question which I think is a very fair one. And look, I'm ideologically on the right, as my YouTube, my social media handle would suggest. I want efficiency in government. I want transparency. I want accountability. I want to know, okay, if we, the taxpayers, are spending this money, I'd kind of like to know where it's going and what it's being spent for. On the other hand, I also recognize there are moments when your government cannot tell you what they're doing or why they're doing it. There's just some things you got, as much as I hate to say what I'm about to say, there are moments you have got to actually trust that when someone tells you, guys, I can't tell you now, but trust me, there's a reason why we're doing this. Just hang with me. And when this comes out, you'll get it. It drives me nuts on the one hand because my government has lied to me for so many years. I can't stand it. On the other hand, I get it. Where's the balance in those two things where this whole because you're right. I mean, we're headed for a collision course between Elon, the Doge boys, and the Pentagon over. Okay, boys, open up your books. Let's see what you spend the money on.
Okay, I'll say this much. I 100% get what you were just saying. That if it's something that it's something that could be beneficial to enhance our military, to make our country better, then yes, of course, it needs to be classified. Whatever the hell is going on Area 51. Apparently, they were actually developing some of the stealth technology there. That's all in good. But what the hell else is going on? And I'm not even going to get on the alien stuff. I do a show called Wild Wednesday. I get on that kind of stuff around that too. But I only will ever actually really talk about stuff that like I said, I can bring receipts for. Then I'll theorize a little bit. But the thing that the problem is with a lot of this dark money, the skunk works, Lockheed Martin stuff, like I said, when it comes to like human experimentation, like with MK Ultra, there's all this stuff out there. There's evidence out there that they have actually released testing materials into civilian populations to see what the reaction would be. An example of that would be Dugway Proving Ground, which the Y-File is going to come out with a show with that. I assume, I hope. Because I actually talked to them about this and got them to start a video on Dugway Proving Ground. On top of many other things that's very weird about that place is that is the chemical testing headquarters for our country. And it's in released paperwork, declassified paperwork, that they actually did release infected mosquitoes into civilian population. Now, the infectations that they gave them was supposedly inert, so they could trace where the infections. I'm sorry, I'm saying that's wrong. Infections. They could trace where the infections were going, but it's not actually going to cause any harm to the people. That is still experimentation on an unwilling, unapproved population. You're still testing on Americans. That's medical malpractice. That's forced again, okay, brain doesn't always work right, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. You're testing on American civilians. I don't give a rat's ass if it's freaking or nerd or not. You can't do that. That is unethical. There's a belief that Lyme disease actually came out of, again, somebody in chat remind me, Plum Island? Somewhere in the New Jersey area was a testing facility. And if you trace the infection spread of Lyme disease, it initiated in that area. And they were testing on infectious diseases. And it's believed that Lyme disease was actually genetically manipulated and created to go into ticks as a weapon. And that either accidentally or experimentally, however, the same thing that happened with the coof could have happened the same ways. And that's the reason why we have Lyme disease now. Same way that we got the freaking COVID. So I'm going with all that to say the same thing, that whether or not it's good for our nation, is it something that we should do when you're doing it very unethically, when you're testing on human civilians, you're testing on unwilling recipients. And we've done it throughout history also with our soldiers. Look at what was it, the Tuskegee?
Yeah, the Tuskegee. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's these people, they don't care. They're just like we were talking about earlier with Hillary Clinton and the others. There's people who are doing this stuff that have no ethics or sense or care for human life. They don't care as long as they don't get caught doing it. And that's the problem, is that we've been letting them get away with it for a long time. And they've been doing it for so long. Why would they have stopped now?
Yeah. No one's caught them. No one's called their hand on it. When people have tried to call their hand on it, the bureaucracy looks back at them and goes, on a side note, USAID is probably going to go the way of the dodo bird, which I'm happy about, because frankly, a lot of people have conjectured that the CIA has been running money through them to do crap all over the world. So yeah, anything that diminishes the capability of the CIA to make mischief, I'm all for. But yeah, congressmen and senators would say, we'd have hearings and have the director of USAID in and ask them, hey, what are you spending this money on? Or they'd send interrogatories over to the agency. No one would respond. No one would answer them. No one would tell them anything. And now it's like, okay, you don't want to answer us? Fine. We'll just cut off your money. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
There's so much of that happening right now where they're saying, oh, we don't agree with what you're doing. Okay, you don't get any more money. Oh no, please, I'm sorry. And that happened with Canada and Mexico within 18 hours.
Yep.
Within 18 hours. Oh, you know what? You don't want to work with us? Okay, we're going to tariff you. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, President Trump. Yeah, because he's not fucking around anymore. I'm sorry. I don't.
Nah, don't worry. I'm not worried about it at this stage. Don't worry about it, brother. No, but yeah, I agree with you. Now, last question. We'll bring into the station. Your social media channel. How long have you had your YouTube channel now?
Just hit 2 years.
What got you into social media? I'm really curious because I mean everybody has different reasons why they take the plunge, and you know I'm always, whenever I have a guest on, especially if they have a channel, I'm always curious to find out what got you into it.
I didn't give a rat's ass, to be honest. I didn't like Twitter. I didn't like Facebook. I had no aspirations to do YouTube at all. It just kind of fell into my lap. It fell into my lap through Friday Night Tights and Legion of Memers.
Oh, yes.
Of all things. Yeah, of all things. I saw the Legion of I didn't even know what the Legion of Memers was. I thought it was just an unofficial group, and they were just saying, hey, all of you memers out there, you are a legion, and we love you for it. So I dropped a couple of memes. One of them, of all things, it was Gary getting fucked as a horse when he was saying, oh, this thing is so long. And they put that up there, and I think I dropped another one, and then I put the Legion stamp on it. And the guy who runs the thing just, showed up all of a sudden. Hey, you're not actually in the Legion. You can't do that. But we'll let you like go into this test run area where maybe you'll get accepted. Eventually, I got into the Legion of Memers, and I started doing that. And I had a blast with it. I got a bunch of memes popped up on there. So going on Tuesday Night Main Event. That's how eventually I made friends with Steph, my nerdy home. She was the first person who ever talked to on there. Steph is such a sweetheart. Yeah, she contacted me and asked if she could use one of my videos for something that they did, and we ended up talking. And next thing you know, I'm friends with her. I'm getting to know everybody else, and I started going up on the meme streams, the Legion of Memers YouTube stream. And in December of, it would have been 3 years ago. Okay, so we're going back 25, 24, 22. So I guess in January 23 was when I posted my very first video. And of all things, it was on January 6th of 2023. And I had no expectations. I was still just doing the meme stream. I had other people started popping on me, random people that invite me on. And I eventually, this is my very first microphone right here. I bought this at Walmart for like $50, I think. This is my very first mic arm. This is all my mobile kit that I've got right here. Now I put it all in a bag, and when I get ready to go out, I still kept the stuff. And it was a few months into when I was doing this, I got decent numbers, considering at the time, 100 subscribers and some viewers here, only because I had that notoriety, whatever you want to call it, relative notoriety through Legion of Memers and my memes on FNT. Then suddenly, I think I told you this, at the same time, I actually submit an application to go to the police academy. I wanted to join the sheriff's office in my county. I messed up the paperwork, and I had to wait like 4 months for the next class to come around. And at some point in that time period, I decided that I want to do a reaction video to a patriotic song. I didn't know what, but I picked Tom MacDonald's America.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I got monetized within 3 days. It was just, I managed to do something unique. I don't really know why. I was like, hey, we should do this in body armor. I have my own body armor and chest rigs, got my magazines and everything in it. And I guess it was unique enough that I picked up 1,000 subscribers, picked up enough watch hours off of that video alone. And then it just kept on expanding from there. I started doing the live stream, started doing Skinamax Saturday, started doing Knife Hands on Thursday, always at 8 o'clock Eastern, by the way, more on Thursdays than anything else. And it ended up blowing up. The numbers just kept on growing. Every single time Tom MacDonald would drop a new video, I would get a ton more subscribers, and I just hit 15,000 3 weeks ago. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey. I never thought that something like this would happen, especially this quick, because it was kind of my long-term goal to get somebody like Gary on. And instead, I got Gary on my 1 year anniversary, and it just happened to be completely coincidental. that it was January 6th last year, 2024, was my 1-year anniversary. I think I just hit 10,000 subscribers. It was on January 6th. You know, we had our January 6th tree up. You know, everyone needs to celebrate the holiday. And that was also Gary's 10-year anniversary. It was the same day, or the same week, rather. So yeah, it was amazing. It just happened to work out like that. And it's just, my expectations have been blown. So yeah, you better believe I got to the mindset, screw the police. I'm doing YouTube full time now. And it's been nothing but an amazing journey since then.
Yeah, for folks who have never come across Gary Beekler, aka Nerdrotic, and there's some who haven't, which is fine. I mean, everybody's tastes are different for what they come to social media for. Lay aside everything else, Gary Beekler is probably one of the most inspirational stories of, you know, going through self-imposed hell, coming out the other side, and coming out of the dark bigger, better, and more amazing to experiences that he never dreamed in his wildest that he'd ever have. And, you know, I will always, for various reasons, you know, if someone says, hey, who do I need to follow to keep up with what's going on in pop culture, I'll drop any number of names. But probably one of the first ones I'll drop is Nerdrotic. Absolutely, 100%. I will.
Yeah, the reason 100%. Why he's now like a semi-regular on Piers Morgan and so many other big shows. Yeah, people are out there. If they want to know what's going on in the true zeitgeist of pop culture, Gary is now the guy. Everyone's going to him.
Yeah, you're either going to Gary or you're going to the Critical Drinker, which to me, when I saw the Drinker and Gary on Piers Morgan, I said, you know what? We now have a cultural moment, because now the supposed counterculture that the Drinker and Gary represent is now becoming the main culture. And I think that's just awesome, because now people like a Piers Morgan, or I'm telling you, it's going to have, Megyn Kelly's going to have one of those two lunatics on her show before it's all said and done. They will. You watch, it'll happen.
You know who might also be on her show?
Who?
Mikey might be on Megyn Kelly someday.
Hey, we're working on it for what it's worth. I will tweet that one for all it's worth, because Mike Harlow. Look, if the Australians are willing to have the harlot on, then you know Megyn Kelly needs to do it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Mikey is right on the same level. He's over here in his room doing gay stuff or something. I don't know. But I love giving him shit. And yeah, Mikey's got a 25 million impression tweet out there, because he got retweeted by Megyn Kelly and Cat Turd, and he got a shout out from Megyn Kelly on her show.
Yeah,
which is crazy. So. Yeah, and Mikey's actually actively trying to get Tom McDonald on my show, which I'm very honored for him to do that.
Pimp that twink.
Pimp that twink. Damn right. Yeah, are you familiar with Tom McDonald there, buddy?
I have heard his name, but I have got to take a deep dive into his stuff sometimes. So I really got to do it.
I was gonna bring this up because you're talking about the journey that Gary went through, and Tom was very similar, because Tom went through extreme issues of alcoholism, drug abuse. I don't think he ever spent much time in the clink like Gary did, but he managed to recover. He's been sober for many years now, and he's now the most successful independent artist in the world. He's a Canadian that's more pro-America than half of the damn country right now. Yeah. And I'm so damn proud that, and I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm gloating, but I still can't get over the fact that he's actually commented on 2 of my videos, and he gave me a shout out during a live stream one time. So just the fact that he even knows who I am, I'm just more than fucking honored.
Well, and this goes to something, and I'll wrap it up on this. I've said for the longest time, we are at a really unique point, because and this is just my working theory, my way of describing it. We are at a place where there's it's not even a physical place as it is a plain. Imagine the plateau of a mountain. And from various sides of that mountain, people have walked up, and they're now gathering on this plateau. You've got the Steve Bannons, the Jack Posobics, you've got the Peter Navarros. I mean, from that crowd. Over on the culture side, you got Gary, you've got Drinker, you got the Geeks and Gamers crowd, the Legion of Memers. They're gathering in this spot. You've got Carrie Smith, Mike Harlow, Brandon Straka, Gothics. The boys from Dangerous Rhetoric, they're gathering in this spot, and everybody's kind of looking at each other going, I don't know. I know why I'm here, but what the heck are you doing here? And the other person looks back and says, I was going to ask you the same thing. But the more they start talking, the more they realize, I don't agree with you on everything, but I agree with you enough that I can stand a fight with you, because there's too much for us to not fight for. There's too much to fight for that, we shouldn't be fighting against. Not like this, not against the common enemy. And it's an amazing period. I mean, it's just extraordinary. Adam, this has been an absolute blast. I know that I've got the links in my description on both YouTube and Rumble. Where can people find you on social media? What can they do to help you out? What can they do to support your work?
Well, I appreciate it so much. I mean, at Vets Talkin, I would say drop the G and you'll find me. There's just no G at the end of Talkin. And I'm on all the social medias you can imagine. Even Parler. I just learned recently that Parler came back, so I've even got my Parler account again. Guys, if you guys want, we had a booth set up at TP USA, Turnpoint USA's America Fest. It was a huge expense on my part. I was not able to make it. I had a lot of issues. My truck broke down on me and all kinds of stuff. The videos that are going out are great interviews. I mean, from all kinds of amazing politicians. We had 3 of the January 6th prisoners, including Jake Angeli Chansley. He hates the name of the QAnon shaman. He's actually been on the channel a lot now. He's a friend of mine. I knew him from Phoenix, Arizona during the Stop the Steal rallies in 2020. And he's been on the show a lot. He's going to come on the show again, which I can't wait to have him back on since Trump, what's the terminology?
Pardoned.
He pardoned him and all the other J6s. So we have all those amazing interviews up, including up to Danica Patrick. We had Danica Patrick on as an interview out there too. So please, if you want to, go check those interviews out. They're really great. We have more that we still need to upload. It's just unfortunate the algorithm doesn't like them, so they're not getting a lot of views. But other than that, come check out. If you like Tom McDonald, man, I love the fact of the interactions that I get from them. I have a feeling you probably like my reaction videos, and come check out our live stream sometime. You better believe this guy's coming on sometime soon, I hope. And thank you guys so much.
No, I absolutely would love to come on the channel, because, and I appreciate the invitation, and let me know when you want to do it. Let me check my calendar, and we'll absolutely make this thing happen. But yeah, links to Adam's stuff is all in the description. And hang on, we'll say some proper goodbyes backstage. Folks, thank you so much for being here tonight for Chatting on the Porch. I will be back tomorrow night with my good buddy Tracy Barkley for the Wednesday night newsroom, and it'll be on my channel, 6 o'clock Eastern. I'll have it up and running sometime tonight. And with that, thank you so much. We love you guys, and have yourself a great evening. Ta-ta.